People like you don't belong in first class. A white woman said this to a 12-year-old black girl, then had her dragged off the plane. What she didn't know, the girl's mother owned the airline, and she just walked through the door. The entire airplane went silent as Lily Richardson, the head flight attendant, grabbed 12-year-old Caroline Phillips by her arm and started dragging her down the narrow aisle. I said, "Get up now." Lily's voice was sharp and cold. Her red fingernails dug into Caroline's thin brown arm as the young girl stumbled, trying to keep her balance. Caroline's backpack fell to the floor with a loud thump, spilling her books and colored pencils everywhere. But I didn't do anything wrong. Caroline's voice cracked. Tears were already streaming down her cheeks. Her hands shook as she tried to pull away, but Lily's grip was too strong. The white lady in the fancy pearl necklace, sitting 3 rows back, smiled with satisfaction. She crossed her arms and nodded, as if she had just won some important victory. Her designer purse sat perfectly on her lap, and her expensive perfume filled the air around her. "This is outrageous. Absolutely outrageous," Lily announced loudly, making sure everyone on the plane could hear her. "We do not tolerate this kind of behavior on our flights." Caroline's lip trembled. "Please, I need to get to Cleveland. My mom is waiting for me. Please don't make me leave." "Should have thought about that before causing problems," Lily snapped back. She yanked Caroline forward again, harder this time. Other passengers whispered to each other. Some pulled out their phones. Others looked away, uncomfortable but silent. Nobody stood up to help. An older black gentleman in seat 12C started to rise. "Excuse me, miss, but what exactly did this child?" "Sit down, sir," Lily barked at him. "Unless you want to be removed, too." The man slowly sat back down, his jaw tight with anger. Caroline's feet dragged against the airplane carpet as Lily pulled her toward the exit. The girl's white sneakers left small marks on the floor. Her yellow sundress, the one she had picked out so carefully that morning, was now wrinkled and twisted from the struggle. "My tablet," Caroline cried out, looking back at her seat. "My mom's pictures are on there. Please, I need my tablet." "Someone will mail it to you," Lily said without emotion. She didn't even look at Caroline's face. They were almost at the airplane door now. The co-pilot peeked out from the cockpit, saw what was happening, and quickly disappeared back inside. He didn't want to get involved. Caroline planted her feet, trying one last time to stop. "What did I do? Just tell me what I did wrong." Lily finally stopped and turned to face her. The flight attendant's eyes were ice cold. "You were sitting in first class. A girl like you doesn't belong in first class. That seat was meant for Mrs. Hartford back there." She pointed to the white lady with the pearl necklace. "And you refused to move when she asked nicely. But this is my seat." Caroline pulled out her crumpled boarding pass from her dress pocket with her free hand. "See? Seat 2A. My mom bought this ticket for me." Lily snatched the boarding pass and barely looked at it. "Doesn't matter. Mrs. Hartford is a platinum member. She gets priority." "That's not fair." Caroline's voice rose higher. Other passengers were definitely recording now. Phones were pointed in their direction from multiple rows. "Life isn't fair, sweetheart," Lily said in a sickeningly sweet voice that made Caroline feel even worse. "Now let's go. Security is waiting." And that's when Caroline saw them. 2 large security guards standing at the gate entrance, their arms crossed, waiting for her like she was some kind of criminal. Her stomach dropped. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst out her chest. This couldn't be happening. This wasn't real. Things like this didn't happen to kids who did everything right, who got good grades, who said please and thank you and followed all the rules. But it was happening. As Lily dragged her those last few steps toward the airplane door, Caroline looked back one more time at the passengers. She searched their faces desperately, hoping anyone, would stand up and say this was wrong. Most looked away. The white lady with the pearl necklace was already moving toward Caroline's first-class seat, a triumphant smile on her lips. And then Lily Richardson pushed Caroline forward, out of the airplane door, and into the jetway where the security guards waited. "Wait," one of the guards said, looking at his phone with confused expression. I just got a message from the main office. They're saying, but before he could finish his sentence, Lily cut him off. I don't care what the message says. This girl was disrupting the flight and refusing to follow instructions. She needs to be removed from the airport immediately. Caroline's whole body shook now, not just from crying, but from anger too, an anger she had never felt before in her 12 years of life. I want to call my mom, she whispered. After we process you, Lily replied coldly. The airplane door began to close behind them. Through the small window, Caroline could see the white lady settling into her seat. Into Caroline's seat, getting comfortable, ordering a drink from another flight attendant. The security guard looked between his phone and Caroline, clearly uncertain. Ma'am, this message from headquarters is marked urgent. It says, I said I don't care. Lily's face turned red. I am the head flight attendant on this aircraft, and I make the decisions about who stays and who goes. This girl goes. Caroline wiped her tears with the back of her hand. Something inside her shifted. Yes, she was scared. Yes, she was confused. But she was also starting to realize something important. Something was very, very wrong about all of this, and someone was going to have to answer for it. But who would listen to a 12-year-old black girl that a flight attendant had just dragged off a plane? Who would believe her side of the story? Who would care? The security guard's phone buzzed again, and again, and again. His eyes went wide as he read the messages. His face went pale. Oh, no, he whispered. Oh, no, no, no. What? Lily demanded. What is it? The guard looked at Caroline, then at Lily, then back at Caroline. Do you know who this girl's mother is? Lily rolled her eyes. I don't care if her mother is the president. Rules are rules. Her mother, the guard said slowly, his voice shaking, is Victoria Phillips. Lily blinked. So, Victoria Phillips, the guard repeated, his phone nearly dropping from his trembling hands. The Victoria Phillips, the woman who... But his words were drowned out by a sudden commotion back at the gate. People were running. Airport staff were shouting. And through the crowd, striding forward with the power of a hurricane, came... Hit subscribe if you believe children should be treated with respect and dignity, no matter their skin color. Only bullies and discriminators would skip this button. Drop a like if you think Flight Attendant Lily Richardson was wrong. Haters who support discrimination, don't bother. Comment below, Justice for Caroline, if you want to see what happens next. Only those who support unfair treatment would stay silent. Through the crowd of shocked airport workers and confused passengers, a tall black woman in a sharp navy blue business suit walked forward like she owned the entire building. And, in a way, she did. Victoria Phillips moved with purpose. Her high heels clicked against the airport floor like a countdown timer. Click, click, click. Each step brought her closer to the jetway where her daughter stood with tears still streaming down her face. Behind Victoria walked 3 people. A man in an expensive gray suit carrying a briefcase, a woman with a tablet taking notes, and the airport manager himself, who looked like he might faint at any moment. Mommy. Caroline broke free from the security guard's loose grip and ran toward her mother. Victoria caught her daughter in her arms, holding her tight. I'm here, baby. Mommy's here now. Her voice was soft when she spoke to Caroline, but her eyes were filled with fire that made everyone around her take a step back. She dragged me, Mama. Caroline sobbed into her mother's shoulder. She said I didn't belong in first class. She said the white lady should have my seat instead. I showed her my ticket, but she didn't care. Victoria closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them again, they focused like lasers on Lily Richardson. The flight attendant's confident expression was starting to crack. Something in the way everyone was acting made her nervous. The security guard had backed away from her. The airport manager wouldn't look her in the eye. You must be Lily Richardson, Victoria said calmly. Too calmly. Ah, yes. Lily straightened her uniform. And you are... I'm the woman whose 12-year-old daughter you just assaulted and forcibly removed from an airplane. Victoria's voice was steady, but it carried across the entire gate area. Other passengers waiting for flights stopped what they were doing to watch. Assaulted? That's ridiculous. I was doing my job. Lily's voice got defensive. The girl was in a seat that a platinum member requested. We have policies. Policies. Victoria repeated the word like it tasted bad in her mouth. She gently moved Caroline behind her, keeping one protective hand on her daughter's shoulder. Tell me, Ms. Richardson, do your policies say that a child with valid first-class ticket can be removed so that another passenger, a white passenger, can take their paid seat? Mrs. Hartford is a valued customer. She's been flying with us for 15 years. Lily's face was getting red now. That's not what I asked. Victoria took one step forward. I asked if your policies allow you to remove a paying passenger, a child, from their assigned seat based on what exactly? What rule did my daughter break? Lily's mouth opened and closed like a fish. She was causing a disturbance. I was sitting quietly reading my book. Caroline's voice came from behind her mother, small but determined. I didn't say anything mean. I didn't yell. Mrs. Hartford just came up and said she wanted my seat, and I should move to the back of the plane. See. Lily jumped on this. She refused to cooperate when asked to move. Asked or demanded? The man in the gray suit spoke up for the first time. He stepped forward and handed Lily a business card. I'm David Chun, legal counsel, and I'd like you to explain very carefully why you thought it was appropriate to remove a child from a seat her mother paid $847 for. Lily took the card with shaking fingers. Her eyes scanned it, and her face went even paler. Victoria continued, her voice like ice. My daughter has been flying since she was 3 years old. She knows airplane rules better than most adults. She's never, not once, caused any problems on a flight. So I'll ask you again, what exactly did she do wrong? The airport manager finally found his voice. Ms. Richardson, perhaps we should discuss this in my office. No, Victoria cut him off. We'll discuss this right here, right now, where everyone can hear. My daughter was humiliated in front of hundreds of people. We'll have this conversation in front of people, too. More passengers had gathered now, forming a crowd around the scene. Some were recording on their phones. Others whispered to each other. Lily looked around desperately for support, but the security guard had moved away from her, and even her fellow flight attendants who had come out to see what was happening were keeping their distance. I was told by Mrs. Hartford that the girl was being rude and disrespectful. Lily tried a different approach, that she used inappropriate language. That's a lie. Caroline shouted, stepping out from behind her mother. I never said one bad word. I said, "Excuse me, ma'am, but this is my seat," and I showed her my ticket. Then she called a flight attendant, called you, and you didn't even ask me what happened. You just believed her. Victoria placed a gentle hand on Caroline's shoulder again, calming her. Baby, it's okay. Mommy's going to handle this. She turned back to Lily. So let me understand this correctly. A white woman told you that my black daughter was being rude, and without any investigation, without asking my daughter for her side of the story, without even verifying facts, you grabbed my child and dragged her off the airplane. I didn't drag her, Lily started. I have video. A voice shouted from the crowd. A young man in a college sweatshirt held up his phone. I was sitting in row 3. I recorded the whole thing. She absolutely dragged her. Me too. Another passenger called out. I got it all on video. Same here. A third voice joined in. Lily's face went from red to white. All the blood seemed to drain from her head. The woman with the tablet stepped forward. Ms. Richardson, I'm Jennifer Moore, Director of Human Resources for Phillips Airlines. I need you to... Wait, Lily interrupted, her voice barely a whisper. What did you say? Phillips Airlines? The airport manager closed his eyes like he was in pain. Jennifer Moore nodded. Yes, Phillips Airlines. The airline whose plane you just removed the owner's daughter from. The world seemed to stop spinning. Lily's knees actually buckled. She grabbed onto the wall to steady herself. Owner? But I thought... You thought what? Victoria asked coldly. You thought a black woman couldn't own an airline? You thought a black child couldn't afford a first-class ticket? You thought it was impossible that we belonged there. No, I didn't. I never. Lily's words tumbled over each other. My mother built this airline from nothing. Caroline's voice was stronger now. She started with 2 planes 10 years ago. Now we have 53 planes flying to 20 states. She worked so hard, and you treated me like I was trash. Victoria squeezed her daughter's shoulder proudly. That's right, baby. And do you know why Mommy started this airline? Caroline nodded, wiping away her tears. Because when you were young, a flight attendant treated you badly because of your skin color. You said you never wanted other people to feel that way. Exactly. Victoria's eyes never left Lily's face. I started Phillips Airlines with a mission. Everyone deserves to fly with dignity. It's printed on every ticket. It's in every training manual. It's the first thing every employee learns on their first day. Lily's voice was barely audible. I work for Phillips Airlines. You did work for Phillips Airlines, Victoria corrected. Past tense. Please, Lily's voice cracked. She actually got down on her knees right there in the airport. Tears started running down her face. Please, I have 2 kids. I need this job. I didn't know. I'm so sorry. Please. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Caroline looked up at her mother with confused eyes. Part of her felt satisfied seeing the woman, who heard her crying and begging. But another part of her, a bigger part, just felt sad. Sad that this had to happen at all. Victoria stood there, looking down at the woman who had humiliated her daughter, the woman who had grabbed her baby and dragged her like a criminal, the woman who had believed the worst about a child just because of the color of her skin. Behind Lily, through the airplane window, they could all see Mrs. Hartford. The white lady with the pearl necklace was pressed against the glass, watching everything unfold. Her satisfied smile was completely gone now, replaced with worry. David Chun, the lawyer, leaned close to Victoria and whispered something in her ear. Victoria's jaw tightened. Get her on the phone, Victoria said quietly. Get Mrs. Hartford on the phone right now. She doesn't get to hide on that airplane. The airport manager pulled out his radio. This is Manager Rodriguez to Gate 7. I need you to remove passenger Hartford from Flight 284 immediately. Yes, right now. I don't care the plane is about to leave. Remove her now. Through the window, they could see the confusion on the plane. A flight attendant approached Mrs. Hartford. The woman's face turned red. She started arguing, pointing and gesturing wildly. But rules were rules, and Victoria Phillips made the rules. 5 minutes later, Mrs. Hartford was walking up the jetway, escorted by 2 flight attendants. Her pearl necklace bounced with each angry step. Her designer purse was clutched tightly under her arm. This is outrageous. Mrs. Hartford's voice boomed before she even cleared the airplane door. I am a platinum member. I have rights. You cannot treat me this way. Then she saw Victoria Phillips. Their eyes met, and Mrs. Hartford's entire world was about to change forever. Smash that subscribe button if you believe everyone deserves to be treated fairly, not just platinum members. Only entitled discriminators would skip this. Like this video if you think Mrs. Hartford is about to get exactly what she deserves. People who support racism can keep scrolling. Comment karma is real. If you can't wait to see what happens to Mrs. Hartford next, only guilty people stay silent. Mrs. Hartford strutted into the gate area like she was walking into a fancy restaurant, not like someone who had just been removed from a plane. Her expensive shoes clicked on the floor. Her pearl necklace gleamed under the airport lights. She looked around at everyone watching her with an expression that said she thought she was better than all of them. I demand to speak to whoever is in charge here. Mrs. Hartford announced loudly, I have been humiliated, removed from my flight like some common criminal. Do you people have any idea who I am? Actually, Victoria said, stepping forward, I'd like to know exactly who you are. And more importantly, I'd like to know why you thought you had the right to take my daughter's seat. Mrs. Hartford looked Victoria up and down, her lip curling with disgust. Your daughter? Well, That explains everything. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, does it? Gasps echoed through the crowd. Caroline grabbed her mother's hand tighter. Victoria's expression didn't change, but everyone who knew her could see the storm building behind her calm eyes. Excuse me? What exactly does that mean? It means, Mrs. Hartford raised her voice even louder, making sure everyone could hear, that your daughter clearly wasn't raised with proper manners. When an adult asks for something, a child should listen. But instead, she sat there with an attitude, clutching that seat like she owned it. She did own it. Caroline shouted, "My ticket said seat 2A. My mom paid for it. You can't just take someone's seat because you want it." Mrs. Hartford laughed, actually laughed a harsh, cruel sound. "Sweetheart, in the real world, some people matter more than others. I've been a platinum member for 15 years. 15 years. I've spent over $200,000 flying with this airline. I deserve that first-class seat more than some little girl who probably never even flew first class before. But I had that seat first." Caroline's voice shook with anger and hurt. "Why should I have to move just because you think you're more important? Because I am more important." Mrs. Hartford shot back. "I have status. I have loyalty points. I have connections. What do you have? A ticket your mother probably struggled to afford." Victoria's voice cut through the air like a knife. "Struggled to afford? Let me tell you something about struggle, Mrs. Hartford." She took a step closer. Mrs. Hartford actually backed up. "I grew up in a tiny apartment in Detroit with my single mother who worked 3 jobs. We were so poor that some nights we had cereal for dinner because that's all we could afford. When I was Caroline's age, 12 years old, I saved up birthday money and Christmas money for 2 whole years to buy myself 1 airplane ticket to visit my grandmother in Florida. The entire gate area had gone completely silent. Even the airport announcements seemed to quiet down. I was so excited," Victoria continued, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I had never been on a plane before. I wore my best dress, the only nice dress I owned. I had my ticket clutched in my hand, just like Caroline did today. And do you know what happened?" Mrs. Hartford didn't answer. Her face was starting to lose some of its confidence. "A white woman about your age, with jewelry about as expensive as yours, decided she wanted my seat. She told the flight attendant that someone like me didn't belong in that section of the plane. She said I probably stole the ticket. The flight attendant believed her, without even checking. They moved me to the back of the plane to a middle seat between 2 large men, and I cried the entire 5-hour flight." Caroline looked up at her mother with wide eyes. "Mommy, you never told me that story." "I didn't want you to have to carry that pain, baby," Victoria said softly, brushing her daughter's cheek. "I wanted you to fly without fear. I wanted you to know you belonged anywhere you had a ticket to be. That's why I built this airline, so no other child would feel what I felt that day." She turned back to Mrs. Hartford, and her voice went cold again. "But apparently, 30 years later, people like you still exist. People who think money and status give them the right to humiliate children. People who see a black child in first class and assume they don't belong there." "Now, wait just a minute." Mrs. Hartford's face turned red. "This has nothing to do with race. I never said anything about her being black. Ticket, but she clearly doesn't belong in first class. Would you like to explain what you meant by people like her?" Mrs. Hartford's mouth opened and closed. I meant children, young people. They're loud and disruptive." Caroline was reading a book. Another passenger spoke up from the crowd, an elderly white man. I was sitting right behind her. She wasn't making a sound. Quietest kid I've ever seen on a plane. Then this lady, he pointed at Mrs. Hartford, marched up and started demanding the seat. When Caroline politely said it was her assigned seat, the lady got nasty. "That's right," the college student with the video added. "I have it all recorded." Mrs. Hartford said, and this is a direct quote, "Your kind always tries to take what doesn't belong to them." I got that part on camera. Mrs. Hartford looked around desperately for support, but even the people who had been standing near her had moved away. Nobody wanted to be associated with her now. "I want to see the video," Victoria said. Right now. The college student rushed forward with his phone. Victoria, Caroline, David Chun, Jennifer Moore, and several others gathered around to watch. The video played. There was Caroline, sitting peacefully in seat 2A, reading a book about space exploration. Her legs swung slightly because she was small and her feet didn't quite reach the floor. She looked so young, so innocent, so happy. Then Mrs. Hartford appeared in the frame, standing over her. "Excuse me, this is my seat." Mrs. Hartford's voice on the video was sharp and demanding. "Oh, I think there's been a mistake, ma'am," Caroline's polite voice responded. "This is seat 2A. See my ticket?" She held it up with a smile. "I don't care what your ticket says. I'm a platinum member, and I want this seat. Move to the back where you belong. But this is my seat. My mom bought it for me special because your kind always tries to take what doesn't belong to them. Now move before I call the flight attendant." Caroline's face on the video showed confusion and hurt. "My kind? What do you mean?" "You know exactly what I mean. Don't play dumb." That's when Caroline's expression changed. The little girl understood. Even at 12 years old, she understood exactly what Mrs. Hartford meant. "I'm not moving," Caroline said quietly in the video. "This is my seat, and I have the right to sit here. We'll see about that." Mrs. Hartford had stormed off to find Lily Richardson. The video ended. Victoria handed the phone back to the student. Her hands were shaking, not with fear, but with rage she was barely controlling. "Mom," Caroline whispered, "are you okay?" Victoria took a deep breath and knelt down to look her daughter in the eyes. "Baby, I'm so proud of you. You stood up for yourself. You knew your rights. You didn't let her bully you into moving. That took real courage." "But she got me kicked off anyway," Caroline said sadly. "She did," Victoria agreed, "because the system failed you. The flight attendant failed you. And that's not okay." She stood back up and faced Mrs. Hartford. "You tried to use your status, your connections, and your prejudice to hurt my child. You wanted her to feel small. You wanted her to feel like she didn't belong." Mrs. Hartford crossed her arms defensively. "I still don't understand why this is such a big deal." So she had to get off the plane. Book her another flight. Give her some free miles. Problem solved. Problem solved. Victoria's voice rose for the first time. "You think free miles fix the trauma of being grabbed and dragged off a plane in front of hundreds of people? You think another flight makes up for teaching my daughter that the world will always see her as less than? That no matter how much money we have, no matter what we achieve, someone will always try to put us in our place?" Lily Richardson, still on her knees, started crying harder. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have listened to both sides. I should have checked the facts. I assumed." "You assumed the white woman with expensive jewelry was telling the truth," Victoria finished for her. "And you assumed the black child was lying or causing trouble. That's called racial bias, Ms. Richardson, and it has no place in my airline or anywhere else." Jennifer Moore stepped forward with her tablet. "Ms. Richardson, your employment with Phillips Airlines is terminated effective immediately. You will receive instructions about returning your uniform and collecting your final paycheck. Security will escort you out of the airport." Lily sobbed. "Please, my kids. How'll I feed my kids?" "You should have thought about your kids before you mistreated mine," Victoria said coldly. Two security guards approached Lily and helped her to her feet. She looked back at Caroline one more time, her face full of regret, before being led away. Now it was just Mrs. Hartford standing there, surrounded by angry faces and phones still recording. "As for you," Victoria turned her full attention to the woman who had started all of this. "Mrs. Hartford, was it?" "Yes. And I'll have you know that I plan to sue this airline for how I've been treated today. My lawyer will." "Your lawyer will be very busy," Davidson interrupted, "because we're suing you for harassment, for discrimination, for intentional infliction of emotional distress on a minor, and for defamation." Mrs. Hartford laughed nervously. "Sue me? For what? Asking for a seat? That's ridiculous." "For targeting a child because of her race," David said calmly, adjusting his glasses. for making racist statements that are documented on multiple videos, for causing her to be physically removed from an aircraft, for emotional trauma. Should I go on? You can't prove it was about race. Mrs. Hartford's voice got shrill. Your own words prove it, Victoria said. And even if they didn't, we have something else. She nodded to Jennifer Moore, who pulled up something on her tablet and turned around. This is your passenger history, Mrs. Hartford, Jennifer explained. 15 years of flights with Phillips Airlines, as you mentioned. And in those 15 years, you made complaints about other passengers 17 times. Would you like to know what all 17 of those passengers had in common? Mrs. Hartford's face went white. They were all people of color, Jennifer continued. Every single one. You complained about black passengers being too loud, Latino passengers being suspicious, Asian passengers taking up too much space. 17 complaints. 17 passengers of color. And not once, not one time, did you complain about a white passenger. The crowd erupted in angry murmurs. That's coincidence. Mrs. Hartford stammered. 17 times? Victoria raised an eyebrow. That's not coincidence. That's a pattern. That's who you are. Mrs. Hartford looked around wildly, realizing how much trouble she was in. Okay, fine. Maybe I made some complaints. But that doesn't mean... It means exactly what we all know it means. Victoria cut her off. You're a racist, and you tried to use your platinum status as a weapon against my daughter. I am not a racist. Mrs. Hartford shouted. Some of my best friends are... Don't. Victoria held up her hand. Just don't. We've all heard that line before, and it's never true. David Chin stepped forward with some papers. Mrs. Hartford, you're being officially banned from Phillips Airline for life. All your points, all your status, all your benefits, gone. You'll also be reported to the FAA and placed on a watch list. Other airlines will be notified of your behavior, and you'll be hearing from our lawyers. You can't do this. Mrs. Hartford's voice cracked with panic. I fly every week for work. I need to fly. My job requires it. Then you'll fly with another airline, Victoria said without sympathy, and you'll pay full price like everyone else. Maybe you'll even end up in a middle seat in the back of the plane. Maybe then you'll understand how it feels. Mrs. Hartford's face crumpled. All her confidence, all her superiority, all her entitled attitude, it all fell away. She looked like she wanted to say something else. But what could she say? The evidence was against her. The witnesses were against her. The truth was against her. My husband will be furious, she whispered. My job, my reputation. Actions have consequences. Victoria said simply. You tried to destroy a little girl's day, maybe even her faith in the world. Now face yours. Airport security approached Mrs. Hartford. Ma'am, you need to come with us. As they led her away, Mrs. Hartford looked back at Caroline one last time. The little girl stood next to her mother. Tears dried on her cheeks, standing tall. I'm sorry, Mrs. Hartford whispered. So quietly, almost no one heard it. But Caroline heard, and she didn't respond. She just watched as the woman who had caused all this pain was escorted away. When Mrs. Hartford was gone, the crowd erupted in applause. People cheered. Some were crying. Caroline looked around in surprise. You did good, sweetheart, someone called out. That's right. Stand up for yourself, another voice added. The elderly white man who had defended Caroline earlier approached them. Young lady, you are brave and strong. Don't you ever let anyone make you feel like you don't belong somewhere. Caroline nodded, fresh tears, but happy tears this time, running down her face. Victoria hugged her daughter tight. Let's go home, baby. Wait, Caroline said. What about my flight to Cleveland? I was supposed to visit Grandma. Victoria smiled. How about we both fly to Cleveland? Right now, on our airline, in first class, in the seats we paid for. Caroline's face lit up. Really? Really? But as they started walking toward a different gate where another Phillips Airlines plane was waiting, Davidson approached Victoria with a worried expression. Victoria, we have a problem, he said quietly. What kind of problem? Mrs. Hartford's husband just called. He's someone you need to know about. Someone powerful. And he's threatening to... But before he could finish, Victoria's phone rang. She looked at the caller ID, and her expression changed. "Who is it, Mommy?" Caroline asked. Victoria's voice was tight when she answered. "It's the governor of Ohio." Hit subscribe if you believe racists should face consequences for their actions. Only people who support discrimination would skip this button. Smash that like button if you think Mrs. Hartford got what she deserved. Bigots and haters can keep scrolling. Comment Justice or Caroline if you want to see how Victoria handles the governor's call. Only cowards who support bullies stay silent. Victoria looked at her phone screen for a long moment before answering. Caroline squeezed her mother's hand tighter, sensing something big was about to happen. "This is Victoria Phillips," she answered, putting the phone on speaker so David Chun and Jennifer Moore could hear. "Mrs. Phillips, this is Governor Benjamin Walker." The voice on the other end was smooth and practiced, the kind of voice used to getting what it wanted. "I'm calling about an incident involving my wife, Margaret Hartford." The airport gate area went completely silent. Everyone nearby stopped what they were doing to listen. "Your wife?" Victoria's eyebrows raised. "Mrs. Hartford is the governor's wife." "That's correct," Governor Walker said. "And I understand there's been some sort of misunderstanding on one of your flights today." "A misunderstanding?" Victoria's voice went cold. "Governor, your wife racially harassed my 12-year-old daughter, demanded she give up her paid seat, and had her forcibly removed from the airplane. I wouldn't call that a misunderstanding. I'd call it discrimination." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Mrs. Phillips, I'm sure emotions are running high. My wife tells me this was simply about seat assignments and passenger status." "Your wife lied to you," Victoria interrupted. "We have video evidence. We have multiple witness statements. We have a documented history of her making complaints exclusively about passengers of color over 15 years. Would you like me to send you the footage, Governor? Because I'd be happy to share it with you and with the media." Another longer pause. When Governor Walker spoke again, his voice was more careful. "Mrs. Phillips, let's not be hasty. I'm sure we can resolve this matter privately. My wife can be difficult sometimes, but I'm certain she didn't mean any harm. Perhaps if we could meet and discuss this like reasonable adults." "Reasonable adults don't traumatize children," Victoria said firmly. "And reasonable adults don't use their power to protect people who do." Caroline watched her mother with wide, proud eyes. She had never heard her mom sound so strong, so unafraid. "Mrs. Phillips, I don't think you understand the position you're putting yourself in." The governor's tone shifted, becoming harder. "I have considerable influence in Ohio. Phillips Airlines operates out of 3 major airports in this state. It would be unfortunate if regulatory issues or permit problems began to arise for your company." The threat hung in the air like a dark cloud. David Chin grabbed a notepad and wrote quickly. "He's threatening you. Keep him talking. We're recording this." "Are you threatening my airline, Governor?" Victoria asked clearly. "I'm simply pointing out the reality of the situation," Governor Walker replied smoothly. "You're a business owner. You understand that relationships with state government are important. It would be a shame to damage that relationship over something that could easily be resolved with a simple apology from both sides." "Both sides?" Caroline spoke up suddenly, her young voice clear and strong. "I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I apologize?" There was silence on the phone. Governor Walker clearly hadn't expected a child to speak. "Is that your daughter?" he asked. "Yes," Victoria said. "This is Caroline, the 12-year-old girl your wife verbally abused and had dragged off an airplane." "Young lady." Governor Walker's voice took on a fake friendly tone. "I'm sure this was all very upsetting for you, but sometimes adults make mistakes. If you and your mother would be willing to accept an apology and perhaps some compensation." "You can't buy my daughter's dignity," Victoria cut in sharply. "And you can't threaten me into silence." "I'm not threatening anyone," the governor said, his voice getting irritated now. "I'm trying to resolve this diplomatically. But if you insist on pursuing legal action against my wife, on banning her from your airline, on making this public. Well, you're the one choosing to escalate the situation. Jennifer Moore held up her tablet, showing Victoria a news alert. The story was already breaking. Videos from the airport were being shared on social media. Hashtag Justice for Caroline was starting to trend. Governor, Victoria said calmly, I think you need to know something. This situation is already public. Videos of what happened are being shared across the internet as we speak. Thousands of people have already seen your wife's behavior. Thousands more are hearing about it right now. So your threats about my business? They're not going to work. You're making a mistake, Governor Walker said, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. A very big mistake. No, Governor, your wife made the mistake. You're making another one by trying to cover it up instead of addressing it. My wife has served the state alongside me for 8 years. She's done charity work, volunteered at schools, helped countless families. One incident with a... He stopped himself. With a what? Victoria pressed. Finish that sentence, Governor. One incident with a what? With a passenger, he finished weakly. You were going to say something else, Victoria said. Were you going to say one incident with a black child? Were you going to minimize this by mentioning my daughter's race, like it somehow matters less because of who she is? I absolutely was not. Governor Walker, David Chun spoke up. This is David Chun, Mrs. Phillips' legal counsel. You should know that this entire conversation has been recorded. Any threats or attempts to use your political position to interfere with a private business matter or a legal case will be reported to the appropriate authorities. The line went very quiet. When Governor Walker spoke again, his voice was shaking with rage. You're recording this call? You're a public official calling a private citizen about a legal matter involving your wife. David explained calmly. Yes, we're recording it. And it's perfectly legal in Ohio, as I'm sure you know. This is you people are... Governor Walker sputtered. We people, Victoria repeated. Interesting choice of words, Governor. The crowd that had gathered around them reacted with gasps and angry murmurs. Someone shouted, he really said that. Governor Walker seemed to realize what he'd said. That's not what I meant. I meant you lawyers, you business people. Save it, Victoria said tiredly. I've heard enough. Your wife is banned from Phillips Airline for life. We will be pursuing legal action against her. And if you attempt to use your political office to retaliate against my company, we will add you to that lawsuit. Are we clear? You can't speak to me this way. I'm the governor of... You're a man trying to protect his wife from facing consequences for racist behavior. Victoria interrupted. That's all you are right now. And it's not impressive, Governor. It's disappointing. My wife is not a racist. Governor Walker shouted, losing his composure completely. She made a mistake. One mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. A mistake is forgetting someone's name. Caroline spoke up again. Her voice was small but brave. A mistake is spilling juice on the floor. What your wife did wasn't a mistake, Mr. Governor. She was mean to me on purpose because she didn't think I belonged in first class. She said my kind doesn't belong. That's not a mistake. That's being a bully. And my mom taught me that bullies need to face consequences, so they learn to be better. The wisdom from this 12-year-old girl left everyone stunned. Governor Walker didn't respond for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, quieter, more defeated. What do you want from us? I want your wife to understand what she did wrong, Victoria said. I want her to genuinely face what her actions mean, not just for my daughter, but for every person of color she's treated poorly over the years. I want consequences that matter. And what about me? The governor asked. What do you want from me? I want you to stop trying to use your power to protect someone who hurt a child, Victoria said simply. I want you to be a leader who does what's right, not what's convenient. Can you do that? The phone line was quiet for so long that Victoria thought he might have hung up. Then Governor Walker sighed deeply. I need to talk to my wife. Really talk to her. I've heard complaints before over the years. Little things. I always brush them off, made excuses. Told myself Margaret was just particular, just had high standards. But maybe I wasn't paying attention to the real problem. Victoria's expression softened slightly. That's the first honest thing you've said in this entire conversation, Governor. Can I ask you something? Governor Walker said quietly. Your daughter, is she okay? Victoria looked down at Caroline, who was leaning against her side, tired from the emotional roller coaster of the day. She's resilient, Victoria answered. She's strong. But should she have to be? Should a 12-year-old have to develop thick skin against racism? Should that be something she needs to be strong about? No, Governor Walker said. No, she shouldn't. Then do better, Governor, Victoria said firmly. Be better. Use your platform to call out discrimination when you see it, especially when it's coming from people close to you. I will, he said. And Mrs. Phillips? I truly am sorry about what my wife did to your daughter. That's not an excuse or a political statement. It's just, I'm sorry. Victoria closed her eyes. Thank you for saying that. But save your apologies for Caroline. She's the one who deserves them. Caroline, Governor Walker addressed her directly now. I'm very sorry for how my wife treated you. What she did was wrong. You didn't deserve that. Caroline thought about it for a moment. Thank you for saying sorry, Mr. Governor. But your wife needs to mean it when she says it, not just say it because she got in trouble. You're right, he agreed. You're absolutely right. Governor, David Chin spoke up again. We'll be in touch through official channels about the legal proceedings. But understand, if there's any retaliation against Phillips Airlines, any suspicious regulatory issues, any political pressure, we will know and we will respond. I understand, Governor Walker said. You have my word, as a public servant, not as a husband, that I won't interfere with your business operations. We'll hold you to that, Victoria said. After they ended the call, the entire gate area erupted in applause again. Passengers cheered. Airport workers clapped. Someone started chanting, Caroline, Caroline, and others joined in. Caroline's face turned red with embarrassment, but she was smiling. A real, genuine smile for the first time since the whole ordeal began. Mommy, can we go to Grandma's house now? She asked. I'm really tired. Victoria laughed and hugged her daughter. Yes, baby, let's go home. But as they started walking toward their new flight, Jennifer Moore's phone buzzed. She looked at it and her face went pale. Victoria, she said urgently, we have another problem. What now? Victoria asked, exhausted. It's Mrs. Hartford. She's on the local news right now, and she's saying something very different from what actually happened. They all turned to look at the nearest TV screen in the gate area, and there, on Channel 7 News, was Margaret Hartford, sitting in front of a camera with perfect makeup and a sad expression, playing the victim. I was just trying to upgrade my seat, Mrs. Hartford said tearfully on TV. And this woman's daughter was so rude to me. I felt threatened, actually, and now they're trying to ruin my reputation just because. Victoria's jaw clenched. Oh, she did not just. Mom! Caroline tugged on her sleeve. She's lying. Everyone knows she's lying. Why is she lying on TV? Victoria knelt down to look her daughter in the eyes. Because some people, when they get caught doing something wrong, try to change the story. They try to make themselves look like the victim, so people will feel sorry for them instead of holding them accountable. That's not fair, Caroline said. No, baby, it's not fair at all. Victoria stood up and pulled out her phone. She opened her contacts and scrolled to a name she hadn't called in years. Who are you calling? David Chin asked. Victoria's smile was determined and fierce. Someone who can help us tell the real story. Someone with a much bigger platform than Channel 7 News. She hit the call button. Hello? A voice answered. Marcus? It's Victoria Phillips. Remember how you said if I ever needed a favor, I should call? Well, I'm calling. And trust me, you're going to want to hear this story. Caroline looked up at her mother with admiration and hope. Maybe this wasn't over yet. Maybe justice really would win in the end. But first, they had one more battle to fight. The Battle for the Truth. Subscribe right now if you believe liars should be exposed. Only manipulators and deceivers would skip this button. Smash that like if you're angry about Mrs. Hartford playing the victim on TV. People who support fake stories can keep scrolling. Comment, expose the truth, if you want to see Victoria take down Mrs. Hartford's lies once and for all. Only guilty people who hide from the truth stay silent. 3 hours later, Victoria and Caroline sat in a professional television studio in downtown Cleveland. The bright lights felt warm on their faces. A makeup artist had gently fixed Caroline's hair and wiped away the last traces of her tears. Across from them sat Marcus Johnson, the most-watched news anchor in Ohio, known for his tough interviews and his commitment to uncovering the truth. We're live in 5, 4, 3. The camera operator counted down silently with his fingers. The red light on the camera turned on. "Good evening, Ohio," Marcus began, his voice strong and clear. "Tonight, we bring you an exclusive interview about a story that has taken social media by storm. A story about discrimination, power, and a 12-year-old girl who stood up for herself. With me are Victoria Phillips, owner and founder of Phillips Airlines, and her daughter Caroline. Thank you both for being here." "Thank you for having us," Victoria said calmly. Marcus turned to Caroline with a gentle smile. "Caroline, I know today has been really hard for you. Can you tell us, in your own words, what happened on that airplane?" Caroline took a deep breath. Her mother squeezed her hand encouragingly. "I was sitting in my seat, seat 2A, reading my book about space," Caroline began. Her voice was quiet at first, but grew stronger as she spoke. "I was excited because my mom bought me a first-class ticket as a special treat before I visit my grandma. Then this lady with a pearl necklace came up to me. That would be Margaret Hartford, the wife of Governor Benjamin Walker." Marcus clarified for the viewers. "Yes, sir," Caroline nodded. "She told me she wanted my seat. I was confused because I had a ticket for that seat. I showed her my ticket and said very politely, 'I'm sorry, ma'am, but this is my assigned seat.' Then she got really mad." "What did she say when she got mad?" Marcus asked gently. Caroline's voice got quieter. She said, "Your kind always tries to take what doesn't belong to them. And she told me to move to the back of the plane where I belong." Gasps could be heard from the studio crew off camera. "How did that make you feel?" Marcus asked. "Scared," Caroline admitted, "and confused, and really, really sad. Because I knew what she meant by my kind. She meant black people. She meant me, and I didn't understand why the color of my skin meant I couldn't sit in a seat my mom paid for." Marcus turned to the camera. "For those just joining us, we have obtained multiple videos of this incident from passengers on the flight. I want to warn viewers that what you're about to see is disturbing. The screen split, showing the video from the college student's phone. America watched as Mrs. Hartford stood over young Caroline, making her demands. They heard the cruel words. They saw Caroline's polite responses. They watched as Lily Richardson arrived and immediately took Mrs. Hartford's side without asking questions. And they witnessed a heartbreaking moment when the flight attendant grabbed Caroline's arm and dragged her down the aisle while she cried and begged. When the video ended, there wasn't a dry eye in the studio. Marcus cleared his throat, clearly emotional. Earlier today, Mrs. Hartford appeared on another network claiming that she was a victim in this situation. She stated that Caroline was rude to her, that she felt threatened, and that the whole incident is being blown out of proportion. Victoria, what's your response to that? Victoria's expression was calm, but her eyes burned with intensity. My response is that we live in a time where everything is recorded. Mrs. Hartford can tell whatever story she wants, but the truth is captured on multiple videos from multiple angles. The truth is documented in her 15-year complaint history with my airline. 17 complaints, all against passengers of color, 0 against white passengers. The truth is in the witness statements from passengers who saw and heard everything. Mrs. Hartford isn't a victim. She's someone who got caught being cruel to a child and is now trying to avoid consequences. Strong words, Marcus said. We reached out to Governor Walker's office for comment. They provided this statement. He read from paper. The governor and Mrs. Hartford are dealing with this matter privately and have no further comment at this time. What do you make of that? I make of it that they're hoping this goes away quietly, Victoria said. But it won't. It can't, because this isn't just about my daughter. This is about every black child, every brown child, every child of color who has been made to feel like they don't belong somewhere. This is about a system that still, in 2025, allows people to discriminate based on skin color and get away with it because they have money or power or connections. Marcus leaned forward. You mentioned consequences. Mrs. Hartford has been banned from Phillips Airline for life. Your company is pursuing legal action. Some people are saying that's too harsh for one incident. What would you say to them? Victoria's jaw tightened. I would say that this wasn't one incident. This was one incident that got filmed and went viral. How many other times has Mrs. Hartford done this to people who didn't have video evidence? How many other people has she hurt who didn't have the resources or platform to fight back? And I would remind those people that my daughter is 12 years old. 12. She's a child who did nothing wrong except exist in a space where someone thought she didn't belong. Caroline. Marcus turned back to the young girl. What do you want people to know? What do you want people to learn from what happened to you? Caroline thought carefully before answering. When she spoke, her words were wise beyond her years. I want people to know that just because someone is a kid doesn't mean their feelings don't matter. Adults should protect kids, not hurt them. And I want people to know that having money or being important doesn't make you better than anyone else. My mom always tells me that everyone deserves respect. The janitor, the pilot, the passenger in first class, and the passenger in the last row. Everyone. Mrs. Hartford forgot that, or maybe she never learned it. She paused and added, and I want other kids who look like me to know that you do belong. Anywhere you have a right to be, you belong there. Don't let anyone make you feel small. The studio erupted in applause from the crew. Even Marcus had to wipe his eyes. Victoria, Marcus said after a moment, you founded Phillips Airlines 10 years ago after experiencing something similar to what Caroline went through. Can you tell us about that? Victoria nodded. When I was Caroline's age, I experienced almost the exact same thing. A white woman wanted my seat, claimed I didn't belong there, and I was moved to accommodate her. I cried that whole flight, and I made myself a promise that day. If I ever had the power to change things, I would. So I worked hard. I put myself through college working 3 jobs. I got my business degree. I saved every penny. And 10 years ago, I bought 2 used airplanes and started Phillips Airlines with one mission. Everyone deserves to fly with dignity. And now you have 53 planes flying to 20 states. Marcus added. That's remarkable. It is, Victoria agreed. But it means nothing if children are still being treated the way I was treated, the way Caroline was treated. The airline is successful, yes, but the mission is incomplete because discrimination still exists. Racism still exists, and people with power still try to use that power to hurt people they see as beneath them. Marcus turned to the camera. We need to take a commercial break. But when we come back, we have some surprising developments in this story, including a response from someone you might not expect. Stay with us. During the commercial break, Caroline leaned against her mother. Mom, I'm tired. Are we almost done? Almost, baby, Victoria whispered. You're doing so great. I'm so proud of you. When they came back from commercial, Marcus had a serious expression. Welcome back. During the break, we received a phone call from someone who wanted to join this conversation. Calling in from her home is Diane Richardson, the mother of Lily Richardson, the flight attendant who removed Caroline from the plane. Mrs. Richardson, thank you for calling in. An older woman's voice came through the speakers, shaky and emotional. Thank you for letting me speak. I want to say something about my daughter. Please, go ahead, Marcus encouraged. My daughter Lily lost her job today. She was fired from Phillips Airlines. And she deserves it. Diane's voice cracked. I raised that girl better than what she showed today. I raised her to treat everyone with kindness and respect. But somewhere along the way, she picked up ideas that I never taught her. Ideas about who matters more, about who deserves what based on how they look. Caroline sat up straighter, listening intently. Diane continued, I watched the videos. I saw my daughter grab that precious child and drag her like she was nothing. And I was ashamed. I am ashamed. I called Lily tonight, and I told her the truth. What she did was wrong. Not just wrong because she lost her job, but wrong because she hurt an innocent child. Wrong because she chose to believe a lie instead of finding out the truth. How did your daughter respond? Marcus asked gently. She cried. Diane said, she cried hard. And she told me she's been thinking all day about why she did what she did. She realized that she saw a black child in first class, and her first thought was, that doesn't seem right. She didn't question that thought. She just acted on it. And now she's facing the consequences of that action. Victoria listened carefully, her expression unreadable. Mrs. Phillips, if you're listening, Diane addressed Victoria directly, I'm not asking you to give my daughter her job back. She doesn't deserve it. But I'm asking you, as a mother, to know that I'm sorry. I'm sorry my daughter hurt your baby. I'm sorry she failed to be the person I tried to raise her to be. And I promise you, she will learn from this. I will make sure of it. There was a long pause. Mrs. Richardson. Victoria finally spoke. I appreciate you calling in. I appreciate your honesty. And I hope your daughter does learn from this. Not so she can get her job back, but so she can be better. So she can raise her own children to be better. That's how change happens. One person, one family, one choice at a time. Thank you, Diane whispered. And Caroline, sweetheart, if you can hear me, you are bright and beautiful, and you belong anywhere you want to be. Don't let today dim your light. Caroline smiled through fresh tears. Thank you, Mrs. Richardson. After Diane disconnected, Marcus shuffled his papers. We have one more surprise. About 20 minutes ago, Governor Benjamin Walker released a new statement. It's quite different from his earlier one. With your permission, I'd like to read it. Victoria nodded. Marcus read. After reviewing the video evidence and speaking extensively with my wife, I must acknowledge some painful truths. My wife's behavior toward Caroline Phillips was discriminatory and unacceptable. Her words and actions were rooted in racial prejudice, and no amount of status or position excuses that. I have been complicit in this by making excuses for concerning behavior over the years instead of addressing it. To Caroline Phillips and her mother Victoria, I offer my sincerest apologies. To the people of Ohio, I promise to do better. My wife will be entering counseling to address her biases and prejudices. She will also be stepping back from her public duties indefinitely, and I will be working with community leaders to implement anti-discrimination training for all state employees and contractors. This is not about politics. This is about what's right. And what happened to Caroline Phillips was not right. The studio was completely silent. Marcus looked at Victoria. That's a significant statement from a sitting governor. What's your reaction? Victoria took a deep breath. My reaction is cautious hope. Words are easy. Actions are hard. I want to see if Governor Walker follows through on these promises. I want to see real change, not just good publicity. But I will say this. Admitting you were wrong is a first step, and he took that step. Now let's see if he takes the next ones. And Caroline, Marcus turned to the young girl one final time. After everything that happened today, how are you feeling? Caroline thought about it. Tired, she said honestly, and still a little sad, but also hopeful, because so many people stood up for me today. People I don't even know recorded videos and gave statements and told the truth. My mom fought for me. Even Mrs. Richardson's mom called in to say what happened was wrong. So I guess I'm feeling like maybe things can get better. Maybe if enough people care about doing what's right, things will change. Marcus smiled warmly. You are a remarkable young lady, Caroline. And Victoria, you're raising an incredible daughter. Thank you both for sharing your story with us. Thank you for giving us the platform to tell the truth, Victoria replied. As the interview ended and the cameras turned off, Marcus came around his desk and knelt down at Caroline's level. You know what? You're going to change the world someday. I can tell. Caroline smiled shyly. I just want people to be nice to each other. If everyone thought like you, what a world it would be, Marcus said. Later that night, Victoria and Caroline finally made it to Grandma's house in Cleveland. As they pulled into the driveway, the front door burst open and a small, energetic elderly woman rushed out. "My baby, my poor baby." Grandma swept Caroline up in a huge hug, even though Caroline was almost as tall as she was now. "I saw everything on the news. Are you okay? Did they hurt you? Let Grandma look at you." "I'm okay, Grandma." Caroline laughed, even though she was crying again. Mom made sure everything was okay. Grandma turned to Victoria and hugged her too. "My strong girl. I'm so proud of you. Both of you." They went inside where Grandma had prepared all of Caroline's favorite foods, macaroni and cheese, fried chicken, collard greens, and peach cobbler for dessert. As they sat around the table eating, Caroline's phone buzzed, then buzzed again, and again. "What's happening?" Victoria asked. Caroline looked at her phone with wide eyes. "Mom, #Justice for Caroline is the #1 trending topic in the whole country, and people are sharing the interview everywhere. There are millions of views already." She scrolled through the comments, reading some aloud. "This little girl is my hero. I'm a flight attendant, and I'm ashamed of what Lily Richardson did. We're supposed to protect passengers, especially kids. I experienced something similar when I was young. Thank you, Caroline, for being brave enough to speak up. Governor Walker better follow through on his promises, or we'll vote him out." Caroline kept reading, tears streaming down her face, but this time they were happy tears. "Look at this one, Mom," she said softly. "I'm a white woman, and I never understood how my privilege could hurt others. Watching Caroline's story opened my eyes. I'm going to do better. I'm going to speak up when I see discrimination. Thank you for teaching me." Victoria put down her fork and pulled Caroline close. "See, baby, you did change the world today, one heart at a time. Will Mrs. Hartford ever say sorry for real?" Caroline asked, not because she got in trouble, but because she means it. "I don't know," Victoria answered honestly. "Some people change, some people don't. But that's not your responsibility. You did your part by standing up for yourself and telling the truth. What Mrs. Hartford does with that truth is up to her." Grandma reached across the table and took both their hands. "Let me tell you something, Caroline. Your great-grandmother, my mama, she rode on the back of buses when she wasn't allowed to sit in the front. Your grandmother, that's me. I went to segregated schools until I was your age. And your mama, she built a whole airline company to make sure people are treated right. And now you, at just 12 years old, you're teaching the whole country about dignity and respect. You come from a long line of strong women who refuse to accept being treated as less than. You keep carrying that torch, baby. Keep shining that light." Caroline nodded, feeling the weight and the honor of that legacy. 3 weeks later, Caroline received a letter in the mail. It was handwritten on expensive paper. "Dear Caroline," it read, "My name is Margaret Hartford. You know me as the woman who hurt you on the airplane. I have started counseling, as my husband mentioned in his statement. My therapist asked me to write this letter, but not to send it until I truly meant every word. It took me 3 weeks and 7 drafts to write something honest. I was wrong. Not just wrong about the seat, but wrong in my heart. I have carried prejudice and racism inside me for so long that I didn't even recognize it anymore. I thought I was a good person. I did charity work and volunteered and donated money. But none of that matters if I harbor hatred in my heart toward people who look different from me. You didn't deserve what I did to you. No child deserved that. No person deserves that. I cannot undo the hurt I caused. I cannot take back my words or my actions. All I can do is be honest about what I did, why I did it, and commit to being better. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I haven't earned it. I'm just asking that you know that your courage in standing up to me, in telling your story, in refusing to be silenced, it changed me. It forced me to look at myself honestly for the first time in my life. And what I saw was ugly. I'm working on being better. Not for publicity, not to get my privileges back, but because I should have been better all along. You are a remarkable young lady. You're going to do amazing things with your life. And I hope that one day I can be the kind of person who deserves to be in the same world as someone as brave as you. With sincere apologies and deep regret, Margaret Hartford. Caroline read the letter 3 times. Then she showed it to her mother. What do you think? Victoria asked. Is it real? Caroline thought about it carefully. I think she's trying. That's all anyone can do, right? Try to be better than they were yesterday. Victoria smiled and kissed her daughter's forehead. When did you get so wise? I learned from the best, Caroline said, hugging her mom tight. 6 months later, Phillips Airlines announced a new program. Fly with Dignity scholarships for underprivileged children to travel to visit family members they hadn't seen in years. Caroline helped her mother choose the first 100 recipients. A year later, Governor Walker signed the Equal Treatment in Transportation Act, which created strict penalties for discrimination in all forms of public transportation throughout Ohio. Other states began adopting similar laws. Lily Richardson completed a year-long anti-bias training program and began volunteering at a youth center, teaching young people about the importance of questioning their assumptions and treating everyone with respect. She never flew for an airline again, but she found a new purpose in helping others avoid her mistakes. And Caroline? Caroline went back to being a regular 12-year-old, then 13, then 14. She got good grades, played soccer, hung out with her friends. But she also became a youth advocate, speaking at schools about dignity, respect, and standing up for what's right. Because sometimes it takes a 12-year-old girl to remind the whole world what really matters. It's not about first class or economy. It's not about platinum status or regular membership. It's not about power or position or privilege. It's about treating every human being, every child, every person, with the dignity and respect they deserve, simply because they're human. And that's a lesson worth learning, no matter how old you are.